First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Howdy Cooper. I'm a board member with RPNA. And on Wednesday nights, this time of the month, we usually have a kind of a block captain's meeting for the River Park Neighborhood Watch program. We're going to cut that down to just a couple minutes, have a couple announcements, and then we'll get right into our program with the flood control work. The first thing I'd like to announce, we have the Thompson and Clark programs that go on in the center. What I'd like to do first is introduce Butch Hodgkins. He's the Executive Director of SAFCA. And we'll have Butch talk a little bit, and then we're going to go into a couple talks from the other agencies, and then we'll have a pretty extensive question and answer period. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Butch Hodgkins.
Thank you, Howdy. It's my pleasure to be here. At least that's the way it feels walking in. It's a beautiful neighborhood, and I know you have a lot of questions and concerns, and we're going to try and address them. I guess I'll start out by apologizing a little bit for the fact that you live close to a levee. That's a very important levee, not only to you, but to all of Sacramento. And in terms of the overall flood control strategy in Sacramento, this has been in place really since SAFCA was formed late in 1989. Our basic goal has been to do three things. The first one is to fix the levee, and that's part of what the project that we're going to be talking tonight to you about are, fixing the levees. Trying to make the levees that protect Sacramento as secure and as reliable as we can. From a purely sort of down-to-earth standpoint, we'd like to be sure that these levees are not going to fail unless they're overtopped. And from my standpoint as an engineer, we can predict with some certainty, although not very much time, when the levees are going to be overtopped. What we can predict is when one fails before the water's gotten high enough to even exceed the design capacity of the levee. That's what happened up in Sutter County, and that's what happened in several places in San Joaquin County back in 1997, and that's what we don't want to happen here in Sacramento. We don't want them to be overtopped either, but there's much less likelihood of that than there is the potential for one to give way. So the first part is fix the levees. The second part is to try and add flood control storage somewhere on the American River. You folks probably know we've been back to Washington twice, in 1992, again in 1996, trying to get Congress to authorize Auburn Dam. I'm going to tell you that from my standpoint, and I've been back both in 96 and over the last 2 years, trying to get people to understand the problem in Sacramento and authorize the project. The situation simply is that Auburn Dam is not something that's going to happen in probably my lifetime. And the reason simply is that in Congress, and it's potentially $1 billion project, one that would be very difficult to fund without some federal funding. We have opposition from the environmental community throughout the United States and from the very conservative anti-tax groups throughout the United States. Both of those groups have the ability, when they see Congress considering something they're opposed to generate 50, 100 calls in the home office of every congressman in the United States. We can't even get the California delegation all together in support of the project here in California. So that's kind of the odds we're up against, and that's why Auburn hasn't been approved and isn't going to go forward. Just in general, SAFCA board, and I have, I think, 3 members here tonight, unless somebody got in without me seeing them, and I'd like to just list who they are, and I think several couple of them we'll talk to you later. First of all, I have Steve Combs, who is also your city councilman. He's going to talk to you a little bit after me. And then from American River Flood, Steve. They know where she lives. That's a bad thing for me to do. And we have Virginia Moose, who serves on the American River Flood Control District Board and on safety. She's sitting back over here. And Clyde McDonald, I saw you, Clyde, who also serves on the safety board and on the American River Flood Control District Board. We have Carolyn Simon, who's the chair of the American River Flood Control District Board. Every time I try and say Selby's last name, I say it wrong. Verner? Is there an R or not? Who's also on the American River Flood Control District. Now, as my board, basically after watching Auburn go down for the second time in 96, 92 at least we got before the House, before we lost. In 1996, we couldn't even get out of the authorizing bill. So it got worse, not better. But after seeing that, the board sort of changed our overall direction from a flood control standpoint, quite frankly, because there was no other alternative. And we're pursuing a project that involves modifying the Folsom to make it work better in controlling the flood, to make it more efficient. Providing some improvements to the levees here in terms of raising them, although in this particular area you are fairly fortunate in that these levees, generally speaking, are high enough and wouldn't have to be raised if the project we're pursuing goes forward. And the situation back in Washington, so you understand it, is the Senate approved an authorizing bill that has in it the project that the board first picked, and that's a project that would involve significantly raising the levees. But that's not the general direction that Congress is headed in. That project ran into a lot of opposition, primarily from the foothill community and from the representatives in San Joaquin County and Yolo County, who for a variety of different reasons don't want to see us put more water down in the American River. And so the alternative project that people are pretty much focused on back now is one that, in addition to modifying Folsom, would raise Folsom and involve improving the levee, stabilize the levee. And Paul Devereaux, who works for safety, the chief engineer, is going to go ahead and present that. Then we're going to talk about some more bank protection work. You know, we've already done some out there, but we have some finished work to do and some more work to do up by Sac State. John Bassett, who's one of safety's engineers, will talk to you about that. I think at that point it might make sense to try and take questions about the technical natures of those projects. And then American River Flood Control District wants to talk to you about this issue of encroachment. And given that feedback, and let me just see a show of hands so that we don't neglect some people who are interested. How many are interested in knowing more about the construction, its timing, what it's going to mean to the neighborhood? And how many are here primarily because they're concerned about the encroachment? Okay, we have both. So let us go ahead and go through the construction and then deal with the encroachment. And I'd like to now go ahead and turn it over to you, Steve. And then we'll have Paul up here and talk.
Thank you, Butch. Just a few words. First of all, always a pleasure being in River Park. But can't you get a few people here for these meetings? You know, we have these meetings and nobody shows up. Just kidding. But I look forward to seeing you all out Saturday at Sac State for Thompson Park. One other thing about the one in River Park on August 14th is also going to be Family Safety Day. So the fire department is going to have some won't be done in River Park until next year.
But I thought it would be a good idea to start talking to people now. So you get an idea, and this way you can also go look for yourself what's going on where we are doing the slurry balls. So you get an idea of what's going to be coming in to River Park next year. That's the main reason. But now, secondly, you're going to hear from American River Flood Control District. They have some ongoing concerns would be for next year in River Park.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. He said I'm Paul Devereaux. I'm the Director of Engineering for SAFCA, Sacramento Area Flood Control Agency. Before you leave tonight, get these two brochures. They're up here at the front. There's a blue one that talks about the bank protection project that John's going to talk about after I do. There's kind of an off-white or yellowish one that will talk about the slurry wall. Two separate projects that are going on, unfortunately, at the same time in some instances. And I understand you probably have a lot of questions that you're anxious to get in. Right down the center of the levee. It's called a slurry wall. It has three basic components. It has a small amount of cement. It mainly has earth material, dirt. It has an amount of bentonite, which is kind of like a clay type material. You mix those two together with water, you create a slurry mix. So the process by which the slurry mix project is done is we get the dirt from the most convenient location, which is right in the levee itself. So there will be excavators that will dig trenches down as deep as 7 feet in the levee, taking the dirt right out of the center of the levee, putting them on trucks. That dirt is taken to what we call a staging area, which is where it's mixed with the cement and the water and the bentonite to create the slurry. Then it's trucked back to the trench and placed down the center of the levee. So most of the construction impacts aren't going to be on your city streets out here. It's going to be confined to the floodway, the top of the levee, and inside the levees. But what will likely require the contractor to be able to get the truck to go to the place where they're excavating and back to their staging area is they're going to have to create a fairly large working area. The way they do that is they'll actually take portions of the levee and they'll cut off the top of the levee so the crown is a lot wider than it is right now. The truck can be passed.
We'll be lowering probably about 3 feet through most of the area. In some areas, because there's so little access, we'll probably have to lower the line to 6 feet. So that's what we're talking about.
What's the progression rate along the levee? How long does it take to go a certain number of feet?
Typically, it'll average about 60 feet per day per what we call heading.
How many?
60 feet per day per heading. Okay. At this point, we don't know exactly how many headings they'll be working in this reach. We would guess probably 2 in this reach right here.
That's a good point. It's a progressive project. It doesn't sit in one place for 10 or 15 days or something like that. It moves progressively down the levee.
Kind of like a train or something.
Did they put it back then as they go, or?
One second.
Do we have any permit statistics that it works?
The Corp has done this on a number of levees throughout California, both.
Does it work?
I mean, we have shown in the Sacramento River when we had the last 1997 flood and 95, there was not a problem with levee sloughing or seeping problems.
Yeah, guaranteed.